Earth was a planet of quiet beauty, nestled in the farthest corner of the galaxy. It spun its orbit around the sun, with no one paying it any attention in the grand schemes of the cosmos. A speck of blue and green in the darkness of space, its people went about their lives unaware of what was brewing beneath the surface. The scientists, the dreamers, the visionaries worked in silence, their discoveries hidden away from the world to keep the secrets safe from the prying eyes of those who might take advantage of the knowledge they were developing. Humanity had long been fascinated by the stars, but the stars had shown little interest in them. The galaxy was full of older, more advanced civilizations, and Earth was considered a primitive world with no place in the greater galactic community. The people of Earth were blissfully unaware of how far the others had come, and how much they still had to learn. Their technology was lagging behind in comparison, but their curiosity, their drive for discovery had brought them to the brink of something impossible. Faster than light travel had long been thought a fantasy, something dreamed about by ancient explorers and spacefaring societies, but never realized the laws of physics had been clear. The speed of light was the limit, no one could break it, and yet the humans kept trying with relentless dedication. They refused to accept the answer the universe had given them. They poked and prodded at every corner of known physics, desperate to find a way forward. It was the work of a small collective of physicists and engineers who first cracked the code, and when they did, it was nothing like what anyone had expected. They had bypassed the conventional methods, they had defied the rules of space and time itself. Without fanfare, without anyone knowing they had done it, they built the first prototype of an FTL engine, a device that would allow ships to move faster than the speed of light. But it wasn't just the engine that was groundbreaking, it was the way it worked. It was based on principles no one had thought to explore. The technology was subtle, elegant, and silent, like a whisper in the void. Its efficiency was unmatched. It bent space around it without disrupting the flow of time. It could move a ship across the stars without leaving a trace, and this was the key to their strategy. The humans had realized that in a galaxy filled with warships and weapons, there was no room for a race that could be easily found and destroyed. They needed a method that would allow them to operate in secret, so they perfected the technology slowly, carefully, never letting anyone know that Earth was now capable of FTL travel. They built ships, not to explore, not to conquer, but to observe and learn. With a fleet of these silent ships, Earth could now see everything they had longed to understand: the alien empires, their culture, their war, their weaknesses. But they also learned something else. They learned that while the galaxy may have looked calm, it was a powder keg ready to explode. They knew then that they could no longer be a passive bystander. If the galaxy came for them, they would have to fight. But for now, Earth remained a quiet, peaceful world with its secret hidden away, watching the stars, waiting for the moment they would have to make their move. The first ship was a secret. No one could know about it. It was not a ship of exploration or science. It was a ship of necessity. Earth's scientists and engineers had worked for years perfecting the FTL engine, but they had never tested it on a full-scale ship. The prototype was a small, sleek vessel designed to be nearly invisible to any radar or detection system. It was a ship built to move faster than light. But more importantly, it was a ship built to slip through the cracks of the galaxy unnoticed. Earth's leadership had made a simple decision: the time for observation was over. If the galaxy was going to learn of Earth's existence, then Earth had to make the first move, and they had to do it carefully. The first step would be to test the FTL drive in real conditions, not on a simple journey, but on a mission to the heart of one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, the Varn Dominion. The Varn were known for their vast fleets, their iron grip on the sectors they controlled. They had expanded relentlessly across the galaxy, and their power was unmatched. No one had ever dared challenge them, and Earth intended to make sure it stayed that way. For now, Earth's first ship launched in total silence. It left Earth's atmosphere at a speed no one could track and moved into the stars like a shadow slipping through the void. It passed by satellites and deep space sensors without even a flicker of detection. The ship's engines hummed softly as it neared the Varn's border systems. No alarms, no warnings, no signs of anything amiss. Earth's ship moved faster than any Varn ship could have even dreamed. It was a test run not just of the FTL engine, but of the galaxy's response to something that was not supposed to exist, something that should have been impossible. The ship cut through space like a blade through air, and as it passed the first few systems, undetected Earth's leadership allowed themselves a moment of cautious optimism. They had taken the first step, now they had to see if anyone would notice their presence. The ship continued onward into Varn space, and as it did, Earth's engineers watched the data flood in their systems. Were fine-tuned, the ship was stable, the drive was working better than they had imagined. Still, there was an unease, a sense of waiting as the ship approached its destination, a Varn fleet station deep within the system. It was a massive fortress meant to defend the Dominion's borders. No one had ever penetrated its defenses. Undetected, no one until now. Earth's ship made no attempts to engage or interfere. It simply passed through the system and moved on to the next one. It wasn't until the ship was well past the Varn station that Earth received the first signs of something strange. The Varn had detected an anomaly in their systems, but they had no idea what it was. There was no ship, no sign of any disturbance, nothing but a faint ripple in their sensors. Something had moved through their territory unnoticed, and they had no explanation for it. Earth's ship was already long gone by then, but it had sent its message clear and simple. They had done it. They had breached the most secure space in the galaxy, and no one had known it. At first, the Varn Dominion brushed off the strange anomaly in their systems, dismissing it as a glitch in their sensors, or perhaps a false reading from one of their countless defense satellites. But as more time passed, the uneasy feeling began to spread throughout the Empire. Their analysts could not ignore the pattern or ripple in the data that didn't fit. No physical object had been detected, no ship, no debris, no signature, just an empty space where something had moved faster than anything should have moved. The Varn Dominion had prided itself on its vigilance. Its fleets had patrolled their borders for centuries, and no one had ever gotten past them. Until now, an unspeakable fear began to grow inside the minds of the Dominion's commanders. What if it was not a glitch? What if something was out there, a hidden power, an unknown enemy that had slipped past their greatest defenses? They had been so confident in their superiority, so sure that nothing could threaten them. And now this unknown force had breached their most sacred defenses. Without leaving a trace, Earth's ship had passed through undetected, and by the time the Dominion realized it was not a coincidence, Earth's message had already been delivered in silence, and with devastating clarity. Earth was capable of moving through their space unseen and unchallenged. A small group of Varn high-ranking officials convened to discuss the anomaly and the terrifying possibilities it presented. A decision was made. The fleet would be mobilized to hunt down whatever had infiltrated their borders and eradicate it before it could do any more damage. The Varn were not fools. They knew the danger of underestimating an enemy they couldn't see or understand. They would not rest until they found the source of the disturbance and wiped it from existence. They would burn the galaxy if necessary. The hunt began immediately. The Varn Empire was a vast network of systems and planets interconnected by their fleets and vast surveillance networks. But the thing about the unknown enemy was that it wasn't there to engage in combat. It wasn't there to announce itself to the Varn. It wasn't even there to make a statement. It was simply there to learn, to study, to observe. Humanity's fleet had already passed through the systems without a trace. And now the Varn's pursuit began in earnest. They would search every corner of their empire. They would scan every sector for signs of the intruder. But no matter how they tried, their sensors found nothing. No anomaly, no disturbance, no fleet, no trace of anything that shouldn't be there. It was like chasing a shadow through the darkness of space-time. And again, their best efforts failed to catch the invisible force that had violated their space. And with each failure, their fear grew. The Varn Empire's pride had been wounded deeply. They had been caught unprepared for something they had never considered possible. What other races could have such technology, and why would they keep it hidden in such a way? The Varn commanders couldn't answer these questions, but they knew one thing for certain: the thing that had breached their borders had no intention of retreating, no intention of staying silent, no intention of fading into the unknown. They were here, and they had already won the first battle without even firing a single shot. The Varn Dominion had underestimated Earth for too long. Their failure to find the source of the mysterious disturbance had only deepened their fear and fueled their obsession to find and destroy whatever had dared to slip past their vast defenses in secret. But the truth was even worse than they could have imagined. Earth was no longer content with hiding in the shadows. The time had come for them to reveal themselves to the galaxy, to show the Varn and anyone else watching that humanity was not weak, not helpless, and certainly not a species to be trifled with. The Varn had spent weeks searching the far reaches of their empire, but as they combed through their systems, one by one, they still found nothing. They had no idea that Earth had already infiltrated the heart of their empire and struck first in their blind pursuit of an enemy they could not see. They had failed to realize that Earth's fleet was already in position, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the Varn finally did realize the extent of their mistake, it was far too late. Earth's ships were already in their most secure systems and had begun their assault. Earth had built its fleet to be silent, invisible, and devastating. They moved quickly and efficiently, slipping past every defense system and tearing through key military outposts with surgical precision. Without warning and without mercy, entire fleets of Varn ships were destroyed in an instant, their command hubs obliterated, and their communication networks severed one by one as the first wave of strikes hit the Varn Dominion. The galaxy watched in awe and terror. No one had ever seen an attack like this before. The Varn were in chaos, scrambling to understand how they could have missed such a threat. They searched for answers, but the only truth they could find was that Earth had arrived, and it was no longer the peaceful blue world they had thought it was. Humanity's ships moved like ghosts, slipping through the darkness of space. They did not leave a trace of their presence, except for the destruction they left behind. Whole cities were wiped from existence in the blink of an eye, and military strongholds crumbled before Earth's silent assault. No one knew how Earth had done it. No one knew how their ships moved so fast and so quietly. But what was certain was that the Varn were being crushed under the weight of humanity's strike. Their once proud empire was now a target on the brink of collapse. No longer the hunters, but the hunted. The Varn commanders could not fathom how they had missed the rise of such a force. They scrambled to muster a defense, but Earth's ships had already begun their second wave. They were everywhere and nowhere all at once. Earth's fleet was a ghost in the machine of the galaxy, and the Varn had no answer for it. Humanity had taken the initiative, and now the stars themselves would bear witness to the reckoning of those who thought they could dismiss Earth as a backwater world. They would soon learn that humanity's silence was not weakness, it was their greatest weapon, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Varn Dominion had no choice but to surrender everything they had ever believed in as their once mighty empire crumbled under the relentless strikes of Earth's unseen fleet. The very thing they had feared had come to pass, and in their desperation they turned to the one thing they had never expected from a species like humanity: diplomacy. Earth's great ships had shattered their defenses, their cities, their fleets, and their morale, but now they were met with a message, a simple message from Earth, sent across all channels. Their once peaceful blue world had risen to power, and now the galaxy would listen. The message was not filled with threats or demands. It was a statement, clear and concise. The Varn had been beaten, but they had a choice. Humanity was not seeking conquest or destruction, but peace. Their terms were simple. Those who respected Earth's place in the galaxy would be left alone, but those who tried to challenge them would be met with the same swift and devastating force. They had already used. The Varn had no choice. They sent emissaries to Earth in a desperate bid to salvage what little remained of their empire. Their representatives arrived at Earth's most secure space station, a floating fortress far beyond the reach of any other empire. They had never seen anything like it before. Its design was sleek and efficient, the architecture humbling in its scale. They arrived and waited in tense silence for humanity to reveal its terms. They were not received with open arms or lavish displays, but with cold practicality. They were shown the extent of Earth's power, not in grand speeches, but in demonstrations of pure military might. Ships that had never been seen by the galaxy moved silently past the Varn representatives, their weapons dormant, but ever present. The message was clear. This was not a civilization that would bow to anyone, and the Varn had learned their place. Earth's leadership met with the emissaries in a room that felt far too small for the galaxy's most powerful empire's representatives. Earth's government was humble. There were no grand halls or sparkling floors, no majestic displays of power, just quiet professionalism. The humans offered a deal that no other empire in the galaxy had ever been able to offer before: equality, peace, and the freedom to exist without fear of domination. Earth's fleet was strong, But its leaders had no desire to rule over the stars. They wanted something simpler, something that many other species had long forgotten, a chance to live without being crushed under the boot of empires that sought to expand endlessly. With no regard for others, the Varn, after much deliberation and fear, agreed to the terms. They would respect Earth's sovereignty and would cease their expansion efforts near Earth's borders. But they would not forget the price they had paid. The Varn had learned a lesson that every empire must learn eventually, that nothing in the galaxy was guaranteed, not power, not security, and certainly not peace. Earth had earned its place through stealth, through wisdom, and through strength. And they had shown the galaxy that no one could ever again dismiss them as weak or inconsequential. The Varn sent envoys to the other empires to tell them of the rise of Earth, and how their once peaceful world had emerged from the darkness of space with a power no one had expected. With each passing day, more and more alien races sent representatives to Earth, their diplomats arriving in greater numbers, offering treaties, offering alliances, offering anything to avoid the same fate as the Varn. Each new encounter brought another challenge, another opportunity for humanity to demonstrate its power, not through force, but through diplomacy. Earth was no longer the silent observer it had once been. Now they were a player on the galactic stage. Their power was undeniable, and their voice could no longer be ignored. In the coming months and years, Earth's influence spread through the galaxy, not through conquest or war, but through its undeniable presence, through its technology, its knowledge, and its commitment to peaceful coexistence. Their fleet remained ever vigilant, a reminder to the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. But they were not warmongers. They did not seek to conquer, only to live freely as all sentient beings deserved to do. The Varn, who had once thought they were the rulers of the galaxy, now found themselves bound by a treaty they had never thought possible. They had learned a bitter lesson the hard way. The galaxy was not a place where might always made right, and the quiet worlds could rise up when they were pushed too far. Those who had dismissed Earth as a backwater planet now saw it for what it truly was, a force to be reckoned with. Humanity had never desired the power of the galaxy, but they would no longer be passive observers of the stars. They had learned what it meant to fight for survival, and they had learned what it meant to rise above the shadows. They had earned their place on the galactic stage, and no empire could ever forget it again. The galaxy would never be the same again. The rise of Earth had shattered old paradigms and rewritten the rules of power. Once and for all, Earth had not taken their place among the stars by destroying others. They had done so by showing that even the smallest flame can burn brightest in the darkness of space. Their story was one of quiet resilience and strength in the face of overwhelming odds. They were a reminder to all that even in a galaxy full of ancient empires and vast powers, there was always room for the underdog, the one who refused to be silenced, the one who fought to make their voice heard, and the galaxy had learned the price of underestimating them.